Wednesday show. Wednesday show. Wednesday show. Hello, everybody. We are coming to you from my condo for the first time in 3 weeks. 3 weeks, I want to say. Oh, well, I guess it was the last 2 weeks. Yeah, so 3 weeks ago was the last time we were here. The last 2 weeks we have been up in Wisconsin, still having a grand old time, enjoying everything. Hello, Frank fam. How are you guys doing? How was the trip back? Was the trip back good? Hopefully it was good. They got to spend a lot of time at Disney World. And I was very jealous because I was up in Wisconsin. But it's not like I've never spent a lot of time at Disney World before. This is the guy who goes every day. So yeah, today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be having it so you guys out there are going to be choosing the topic for tonight's episode. Wait, are you really? You're back. That's funny. Are you really back in Orlando? I mean, that's bad about the flat tire, but well done on staying. And I also just expect you to give me the money for succeeding on my mission of flattening your tire. I hope it served you well and that no injuries were lost. So, so tonight we're going to be having it so you guys are going to be choosing our topic. I'm going to give you guys 3 topics, and from those 3 topics, you guys are going to figure out what you would like to have our show be about, and then we will go from there. So let's get these parties started. We are going to start. Hey, howdy ho! Tonight, let's start the 781st episode of the Wednesday show when I realized something earlier today, and we're going to get to it in just a minute here during our announcements. Really exciting. So if you're one of those people who are watching later on, or if you're coming late, then you're probably like, oh, I don't even know what's going on. So, but you guys are about. If you're here right now, I'm just mumbling. If you're here right now, you're going to hear something extremely exciting that, like I said, I did not realize until a few hours ago. So let's get this party started. We're going to start the 781st episode of the Wednesday show in 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 781st episode of the Wednesday show. Today is August 7th, 2024, and I'm your host, as always, Brent Dodge. Hello. Today we're going to be going through and talking about Disney with you guys as usual. But of course, before we get to that, let's talk about our news for the week. First off, thank you everyone who's been joining us for our Saturday in the park. If you don't already know, every single Saturday we do a live broadcast from someplace found throughout the Walt Disney World Resort. You never know where we're going to be, but I promise you we'll be coming to you live from Disney every single Saturday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time here on my YouTube channel. Last week we came live from the Grand Fiesta Tour. Who knows where we're going to be coming this week? I have no idea. I don't have a park reservation yet. So make sure you join us every single Saturday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Speaking of which, I don't have it set up. Maybe not speaking of which, I was going to say we'll go through and have it so we are figuring out how many subscribers were at the start of the episode, and I closed that down earlier today on accident. And I'm going to sing a little song as we, sing a little song. No, that's not how it goes. Do a little dance, make a little love, get down tonight. Okay, and as always, let's take a look at our, because I had this planned out. Let's take a look at our starting subscribers for the evening. We are starting off at 7,733 subscribers. So as always, if we get more subscribers as we go through here, we will go into extra innings as well. So we have a longer episode then. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. And if you know someone out there who is not subscribed, send them over to subscribe as well, so we can go into some extra innings this evening. Speaking of extra innings or subscribers or just the Wednesday show in general, I came to a crazy realization today that next week, August 14th, my parents' anniversary actually, but August 14th, 2024, just because of the way that it goes from Wednesdays to Wednesdays, Next Wednesday will officially be the 15th anniversary of the Wednesday show. So I don't know what we're going to do yet, but I do know that we are going to be doing something special for next week's episode, whether it's going to be a park broadcast or something else. I'm going to try to, I don't know if I can get a special guest in 7 days here, but who knows? We can attempt it. But yeah, we are literally, this is the end of 14 years. This is the last episode of 14 years. Next week will officially be our 15-year anniversary of the Wednesday show, which blows my mind. In the last 15 years, we've literally missed 1 week and 1 week only, which is kind of insane because I was literally dying in my, that's my bedroom right there. I was dying in my bedroom, thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die today. And I didn't do a Wednesday show. That was just a few years ago. And that is the only time that we've ever missed a Wednesday show. So next year, or not next year, make sure next week you guys join us for our special 15-year anniversary episode of the Wednesday show. I don't know what we're going to do, but I promise you we're going to try to bring out all the big guns and have a massive, massive party here on the Wednesday show. But as always, tonight's episode is sponsored by our Patreon pals. That's it. Thank you, our Patreon pals. If you're one of the Patreon pals in the chat room right now, give us an oh yeah. Okay, and while they give us our oh yeah, let's give you guys 3 topics to go through for tonight's episode, because we are going to have you guys vote on what you want the topic to be. I have been working a lot on the brand new book that I'm working on, a closer look at Disney's Animal Kingdom's Dinoland USA. So one option will be a take a hike through Dinoland USA, where we'll go through, we'll do fun facts, history, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Another one will be a closer look at an attraction. We can focus on, if you want to, we can do dinosaur, since we're still in that mindset as well. And then the third one is we can do a different episode completely. We can do something like a connect the dots, where we go through and have it so you guys throw a bunch of random things into the comments about Disney, and I have to try to connect the dots. So I'm going to give you guys about a minute or two to throw your vote into the comments about what you want us to go through for tonight's episode. So again, our options for tonight's episode are a take a hike through Dinoland USA, a closer look, deep dive into Dinosaur, the attraction, or a episode or a game of Connect the Dots. Start throwing them into the comments there, and we will choose one, and whoever wins will be the that's the episode we're going to do. So also, I had a few people who wrote to me beforehand, and they said, hey, I'm going to watch your show later on. I'm watching the Olympics. And I totally understand because up until about 5 minutes before I started, I was sitting over on my couch watching the Olympics as well. I love the Olympics, and I don't want the Olympics to end. I really don't. I absolutely love the Olympics. And I've been working on a video today to connect to Disney and the Olympics as well. And I don't know if it's going to work, or I don't know if it's not, but we'll see. Did you see artistic swimming? I didn't. I saw like a quick little highlight. I saw that the women's team got silver, and I did not actually go through and see the actual performance. I've been mainly watching track and field this evening with a little bit of diving, because they've been kind of going back and forth between the two of them. And then I watched some track and field earlier today too. So, and volleyball. I watched men's volleyball for a little bit. And cycling where they're on the track, like the speed track. I love the Olympics. I just absolutely love the Olympics. We were talking about it at work. The nice thing about the Olympics is I wish the world was like this all year round, where it's just like peace and harmony. Everyone's just getting along. It's this idea of unity. You're cheering for people from different countries. You're cheering for people from America. It's just great. It's like a great 2 weeks of just celebration of people. And I love that. I just think it's a great 2 weeks of just accepting other people from all walks of life. I think it's a beautiful thing. I really do. I really, really think we've been talking about it a lot at work. And I've said the same thing at work. I'm like, it's just really nice. Like you just have peace and unity. Like there's not like a lot of. The only thing I don't like is there's a lot of like commercials about like elections and stuff. I don't want to watch that. I want to watch the Olympics. All right. So it looks like we got Connect the Dots, Dinoland USA. Yeah, the fast walking competition, that's actually been going on since the 1940s. Which is pretty cool. Okay, so let's go through hippie. Thanks, Frank. I like how you don't even like quote, you just quote the movie. You don't even Okay, so our votes are for 1 for Connect the Dots, 1 for Dinoland, 2 for Dinoland, another one for Connect the Dots or Take a Hike through Dinoland. We do have 3 votes technically for Dinoland with that vote right there. So let's do Take a Hike through Dinoland USA. Or as we like to say every single time we do one of these Take a Hike segments, hey, take a hike. Okay, so let's start off with a little bit of history about Dinoland USA and also talk a little bit about some of the things that drive me crazy with Dinoland USA. Because if you are doing research for a book on Dinoland USA and you attempt to use the internet to try to figure out things that happened between 1998 and 1999 and 2000 in Dinoland USA, you will find a bunch of websites that have misinformation on it. People don't always trust the internet, unless you're watching the Wednesday show. Trust this guy. That's my campaign slogan right there for Brent Dodge. So when you are going through and we are doing the Take a Hike segment, a lot of people will go through and they will talk about how McDonald's owned Disney, or they own Dinoland USA, or they sponsored Dinoland USA, which is true, but they did not always sponsor them from the very start, or even in whole at the very start. There were different bits and pieces of McDonald's being sponsored. But let's go back a little bit further, because in order to talk about Dinoland USA, we also have to talk about the history of Disney's Animal Kingdom, which started way back in 1953 with Walt Disney himself. Now, back in 1953, when Walt Disney was going through his earliest developments of Disneyland, one of the things that he wanted to do was have it so there was going to be real live animals, that's right, real live animals, over at the Jungle Cruise. However, when he wanted to go through and create this, they realized that they really could not come up with the concept of how to keep animals in specific spots and make it an interesting thing. And that's how we got the animals that we all see and know and love over on the Jungle Cruise to this very day. Now, fast forward a lot of years to the early 1990s, when Disney was trying to figure out different ideas for a brand new theme park. And Roy Disney, hey, not the brother, but the nephew. I don't know why I waved. But hey, guys. He's out there. Roy E. Disney, Walt's nephew, would go through and he would kind of talk to Michael Eisner and say that there was this connection between Walt Disney and animals throughout his entire life, and it would be really cool to have an entire theme park based around Disney's, or not around Disney's Animal Kingdom, just around animals itself. And so when they wanted to go through and create this entire land around animals itself, or this entire park around animals itself, they wanted to have it so there was a champion for the entire thing. So they created, well, they didn't create, they had it so they nominated a very young Imagineer who was very new to the game named Joe Rohde. He would come out and he would be the person who would spearhead the entire project. He had a lot of different experience with traveling around the world. He actually lived in Hawaii. That's where he grew up at. And then he would eventually travel all around the world. And when he was doing his travels around the world, he became very experienced and became a great storyteller. And that's how he got into Imagineering and helped work on different projects back in the 1980s. But then in the mid 1990s, he was put in charge of this brand new project called Disney's Animal Kingdom. And when he wanted to go through and create Disney's Animal Kingdom, he wanted to have it so there was not going to be just a focus on animals, but he wanted to focus on mythological animals and also extinct animals as well, because there are 3 different types of animals, and those are the 3 different types of animals. So of course we would have things like Disney's Animal Kingdom focusing on Kilimanjaro safaris with things like lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, actually just lions. There's no tigers or bears in that ride. We would have tigers over at the Maharaja Jungle Trek, which would open up later on after the park actually opened up. Actually, Asia was now being part of the original park's opening. It would open up in 1999. Most people think it's been around since opening day, but that is not true whatsoever. In addition to those two things, they would also have the Oasis slash the Discovery Island area that we now all know and love today. And with those two areas, they would focus solely on animals. Now, in addition to that, they also had two other lands that they were working on. One of them was called Beastly Kingdom, which we've talked a lot about in the past. It was never actually created, which is extremely sad to me. But to put a temporary land in that location, they would put in Camp Mini Mickey. Also, fun fact, that was going to be the first time ever in the history of the Disney company where Minnie's name would come before Mickey's name on an official place card for a land or an attraction or a movie. Just a little tidbit there for you. And then they had that temporary land. But then the other thing that Joe Rohde knew that they wanted to have at Disney's Animal Kingdom on opening day was a focus on the past of animals, specifically the most famous extinct animals of all, dinosaurs. Dinosaurs? That's right. Just like Jurassic Park, we're going to focus a little bit on dinosaurs. So when they would go through, they wanted to have it so they focus a little bit on education, a little bit on fun, and also a little bit of backstory as well, all with a mix of education in there. So while we're going through Disney's Animal Kingdom, or I'm sorry, Dinoland USA tonight, we're going to go through and we're going to talk all about the different elements that were there on opening day, also the elements that are there currently. And then while we go through all of these different elements, of course, if you guys have any questions in the comments, start throwing them down because I will be talking a lot because we have a lot to cover. And I'm not going to give you all the details because, like you know, we are writing a book about this entire land right now too. And because we are working on this book as well, I don't want to have it so we go through about that kind of stuff. So let's get to it. Okay, here we already have one question here. Why is the roller coaster still at Disneyland, Goofy's Flight School, but taken down at Animal Kingdom? We'll get to that in just a little bit here. Okay, let's start off with the backstory of Disney's Animal Kingdom's Dinoland USA. Okay, when we are going through and talking about Dinoland USA, it is important, more important than anything else, to focus on the overlaying story that is being placed here. Because the biggest problem I have is if you go online, there are so many people who trash talk Dinoland USA and they say, Dinoland USA doesn't have a solid storyline. Why would they put those carnival games in there? There's nothing really there that's cohesive and connects it. There is so much stuff that is cohesive. There are so much things that are connected to one another, and we're going to talk about it right now. Because before we get into the land itself, we need to talk about the storyline. The year 1947, the place, a little place called Diggs County, USA. Now, of course, you're thinking, I know, it's called Dinoland USA. Why are you calling it Diggs County? Well, because that before all of the dinosaurs were there, I mean, the dinosaurs were always there. We just didn't know they were there. But before all that, this was a very simple, a very laid-back lifestyle that we had here in this little fishing town in Florida. Now, there was just two buildings in town. There was a gas station owned by an elderly couple. Well, at that point, they weren't that elderly, but they were named Chester and Hester. And in addition to Chester and Hester, we also had a fishing lodge where people could come up for the weekend. They would fish a little bit. They would get their fish, and then they would go back to the lodge, swap some stories with people, go to bed, and then a few days later, head back to their loved ones and tell them about this amazing fish that they caught. And it was simple. Life was simple. There wasn't much there. And everything would never change. The end. No, the beginning. So one day, a group of people go out fishing. And while they're going out fishing, they're on the banks of the river, the Discovery Island River. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. But the Discovery Island River, they're over there. And while they are digging, one of the guys starts to kind of just dig in the dirt while they're sitting there waiting to see if any fish would actually bite onto their reels, their rods, their fishing poles. And while they're there, he's just kind of digging in a hole, and he comes across something extremely hard. So he starts to dig a little bit more, dig a little bit more, dig a little bit more. And what he discovers is none other than a dinosaur bone. So when he discovers this dinosaur bone, it becomes the talk of the area. He brings it back to the fishing lodge. Look at what I got. I got a big dinosaur bone. And next thing you know, people start to spread the word. There's dinosaur bones over here in Diggs County. You need to go take a look at it right now. So within the next few weeks, more and more people start to come out to Diggs County. And when these people are starting to come out to Diggs County, a group of paleontologists decide that they're going to take over the entire area where this man found the dinosaur bone. And when they do this, they start to create a brand new excavation spot where they can find different dinosaur bones like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, Iguanodon, and maybe even a woolly mammoth. We'll get to that in a little bit as well. So while they're going through and creating this dig site, a lot of other things are happening. Now, down the street, we also have Chester and Hester. They're the people who I said earlier own the gas station in town. We still only have 2 buildings in this entire area. There's not a lot still going on here. However, Chester and Hester start to realize something. There's a lot more people who are coming to Diggs County because they want to go see the location of these dinosaur bones. So Chester and Hester decide what they're going to do is they're going to start to sell these cheap novelties, focusing specifically on dinosaurs. Because if people are going to be coming to the area to look at dinosaurs, then most likely they'll want to buy a souvenir from a shop that also sells dinosaur items. So they decide to go about it and say, you know what? We're not just a gas station now, we're also a gift shop. So people start to go in and they start to give Chester and Hester a lot of money to buy these little dinosaur things. And Chester and Hester are making a nice little profit, and people are coming there and everyone's happy. The fishing lodge is getting a lot of attention now because people are coming there to see the dinosaur bones, and both businesses begin to boom a little bit more. But while all this different stuff is going on, we have a brand new business that has to start to boom. And that is going to be a group of paleontologists who form the Dino Institute. Now, when the Dino Institute is first born, it is actually purchased, or I'm sorry, the way that they actually build it is by purchasing a little bit of that fishing lodge. So when you're actually going through and seeing the fishing lodge, we're going to get to a little bit here. But when you go through and they go to the fishing lodge, they buy about half of the fishing lodge, and that part becomes part of the Dino Institute. And the other half focuses still on the idea of being a fishing lodge. So while these two things are going on and coexisting with one another, more and more people keep on coming to the area. And when more and more people are coming to the area, more and more things start to happen. Because now not only do we have all these different tourists, we don't have just all these paleontologists, but we also have it so Chester and Hester are trying to figure out how they can make more money as well. So the next step that Chester and Hester have is they own the area right around their gas station, and the best way for them to make more money is building a massive parking lot. So their thought process is, if we build a massive parking lot, more people will come park at our parking lot. They'll buy some of our souvenirs, and maybe, just maybe, we can even start to charge people money to park in our parking lot as well if they want to go over to the Dino Institute. So this happens. They go through, people start to pay them money to go park in the parking lot. They also buy their gas. They also buy their souvenirs. And Chester and Hester, they start to make some decent money out of this entire situation. But not only are they making money, but the Dino Institute begins to make more and more money as well. So while these two things are going on and time is passing, eventually we get to the year 1978. Now in 1978, the Dino Institute has become too big for half of the fishing lodge, and they need to build a brand new building. So they build a brand new building. I don't know if you've ever heard of this ride called Dinosaur, but if you go over to Dinosaur, you can find a little plaque on the left-hand side while you're walking into the building that says, the Dino Institute, this building established on April 22nd, 1978. Exactly 20 years to the day before Disney's Animal Kingdom opened up. But we're getting ahead of ourselves right now, so let's just stop that for a time. So while they are going through and creating this brand new experience called the brand new Dino Institute, they are still using the fishing lodge. And at this point, the fishing lodge people are saying, you know what, we're getting ready to retire. We don't want to live here anymore. What if we sell the Dino Institute or the fishing lodge, the rest of it, to the group of paleontologists? The group of paleontologists said that would be great. Would love to do that. And they decide to have it so they transform the entire thing into a few different sections. Number one, they have it so one of the sections is focused solely on the idea of being a spot where they can bring fossils back, they can study them, they can dig up, or not dig up things, but they can study the things, they can brush off the stuff, and they can focus solely on creating new work for the paleontologists. Number two, all these different interns that they have here need to stay someplace. So why don't we create a brand new bunkhouse? We'll call it the hip joint because that's kind of a cool name. And we'll have it so we go through and we have it so the hip joint is over there and all the different paleontologist interns can stay at that location. And number 3, of course, we need to have it so people can eat while they are here, and we will create a brand new restaurant. And of course, because of those silly interns, they will put the name Asaurus after everything, and it'll become known as Restaurantosaurus. So different people can eat at Restaurantosaurus. You can also find the bunkhouse there, and then you can also find the original Dino Institute and the bunker where they could go through and actually, polish off the dinosaur bones as well. Well, all of this stuff is going on. I need a drink of water. I'm talking extremely loud. So all of this different stuff is going on. We fast forward to the year 1998. So in 1998, the year that Disney's Animal Kingdom would actually open up, we have it. So this is, by the way, this is literally, we're still in the intro, and it's like half an hour into the episode. So when they go through and they actually create the, wait, where was I? I got distracted by taking a drink. I shouldn't have taken the drink. I should just gone thirsty. Okay, wait. Dinoland, back to 1998. So in 1998, the Dino Institute is starting to waver. Not as many people are coming to the area. Not as many people are willing to pay over the stuff to come over and visit the museum. All hope seems lost. So what happens is the Dino Institute decides they're going to hire a brand new person, Dr. Helen Marsh. And Dr. Helen Marsh is going to be the brand new head of the Dino Institute. And the first thing she greenlights. The first thing that she allows is by having it so these group of people who work at Chronotech will go through and create a brand new thing that not only will travel around the world, but it will also let people travel back in time to the age of the dinosaurs. What? Yes, I'm being serious here. So what they decided to do was they were going to create a brand new thing. It was not going to be called Countdown to Extinction. It was not going to be called Dinosaur. It was just a brand new way for people to time travel so they could go back and see dinosaurs. Now, while all this different stuff is going on, there was a paleontologist known as Dr. Grant Seeker, and Dr. Grant Seeker wanted to have it so he goes back and studies an iguanodon because he figures that it is the key to understanding dinosaurs. And when he goes back in time to get this iguanodon, he messes things up. And of course, he is put on probation from traveling back in time during an unauthorized field trip. Otherwise, I'd be traveling with you. So when he goes through and has it so he can't go back in time anymore, he decides to have it so he puts us back in time and try to get the iguanodon and bring it back to the current time. So while he is going through this elaborate story and trying to explain this to us, he sends us back in time. And this is going to be where things get a little tricky, because now we are actually part of the story that is also unfolding in the rest of Dinoland USA. So just bear with me as we go through here. So while this stuff is going on, also still in 1998, Chester and Hester invite a group of paleontologists, because now people are starting to come over because of Dr. Helen Marsh. They're also coming over because of Countdown to Extinction. Then now they might want to go see a little bit more exploration about dinosaurs. So they invite a group of actual paleontologists to be out in their parking lot and do dinosaur demonstrations and have it so they can actually look at real life dinosaur fossils. This is actually a real thing that happened over in Disney's Animal Kingdom from about 1998 until about 2001, 2002. So, I don't know what the was for. No one said it isn't true. But while we were going through there and having so this whole elaborate storyline is going on, they decide that they are going to close things down in the parking lot because of something that's happening over at the Dino Institute. Because when things go awry at the Dino Institute, the story gets leaked everywhere. Dr. Grant Seeker sends people back in time to almost extinction. They are about to get hit by asteroids. They eventually get a dinosaur and they come back to current life. But of course, the Dino Institute may or may not have gotten sued by several different people. So while all this stuff is going on, Chester and Hester say, okay, that's our ticket. Because right now, a lot of people are coming, and a lot of people are coming to look at our paleontologist things. However, it doesn't bring us any more money. It's true. people aren't going to go through. They're not going to look at paleontologists and be like, oh, look at the dinosaur bone. It's fascinating. But we're not going to give you any extra money. And plus, it's actually costing them more money to have these paleontologists there because they are having it so they are paying the paleontologists to be at that location. So Chester and Hester decide what they're going to do is, one, build a brand new parking lot at the end of the road. The road is called 498, Highway 498, in honor of 498, April 1998, which is when Disney's Animal Kingdom and Dinoland USA would open up. So at the end of that road, you can actually find a giant sign that says Chester and Hester's parking. It originally was 50 cents. Now it's up to $2. And after they open up that brand new parking lot, they realize, hey, now we've got people who can park down there. We also have this old parking lot and we can do whatever we want. And the best way for us to get more money for our greedy business is to open up a brand new area. And so that is how they create Chester and Hester's Dinorama. And when they create Chester and Hester's Dinorama, they only have enough for a few things. One, a few different carnival games, which of course they're going to theme all around different dinosaurs or mammoth things or things that are extinct. In addition to that, they've got a basketball game, they've got a whack-a-mole game, a crater game, and then of course the water shooting game, which I think is the stupidest one of them all, but that's beside the point. In addition to the carnival games, another thing that they can afford is having it so they bring in 2 carnival style attractions. The first one they bring in is Triceratops Spin, which is a top that you would actually spin with some Triceratops on it, and they spend some pretty decent money for this thing in hopes that it will bring people in, they'll pay some money, and they'll go to this brand new area. In addition to that, they open up another attraction, may it rest in peace, called Primeval World. Now, if you ever went on Primeval World, you would realize that Chester and Hester did a lot of the building for Primeval World because they could afford some parts, but they couldn't afford the entire thing. But the main thing they wanted to do was have it so the entire attraction was based around the same story that happened to that harrowing group of individuals. There was 12 of them who went on that time rover back in time and they almost died. So if you were to go on this thing called Countdown to Extinction, you also went on this thing called Primeval World, you essentially went on the exact same attraction because both of them started with an uphill climb. Then they would both have it so there are some asteroids going on, and as you were going through both of them, you would see the same exact group of dinosaurs as you went through, and then you would see the asteroids at the exact same spots during both attractions, and then eventually you would have it so you would go through and save a dinosaur at the very end at the very same time before you traveled back to current time. So they decided that if people cannot afford to travel back in time over the Dino Institute, maybe, just maybe, they would be willing to pay for a carnival style attraction featuring the exact same storyline. So they will go through and have it so people can pay a cheaper price to go on Primeval World. And that, guys, is the history lesson to get us into our Take a Hike. Okay, let's go through and take a hike. Oh my gosh, this book is a long book. It's a very detailed book, but let's take a hike. As always, if you've never joined us for one of our Take a Hike episodes in the past, what we are going to do is we're going to go through, we're going to point out different things about each individual attraction. You just got a whole lot of backstory, but we also want to focus a little bit on different details that you can find at each of these specific locations. Some of them are things that we've talked about in the past. Some of them are things that we've not talked about in the past, but without any further ado, take a hike. Okay. So as you enter into Disney's Animal Kingdom and you take a right and then you go, around the Discovery Island, you eventually go under a bridge. How much did you pay for that watch band? Wow, isn't that great? This is the watch, the charge on it. I only have to do it once a week. So I always do it during the Wednesday show because I'm next to my computer. And it takes like an hour to charge fully. So anyways, that's besides the point. Thanks, Eric. So when you go over the bridge, you go underneath the sign that says, "Welcome to Dinoland USA." The first thing that we're going to have on the right-hand side is the Trilobites shop, which is a very small shop. Honestly, this is probably one of the most infuriating parts of the entire book that I've been writing, because a lot of people say that this was always a McDonald's restaurant until 2009, which is not true whatsoever. It originally started off as a thing called Dino Dash, and then it became Petra Fry's, which is the McDonald's themed restaurant. And then after McDonald's left, it would eventually become Trilobites, which was an old extinct animal. And if you actually look at the sign, you can actually find four trilobites on there, or fossils of trilobites up there, not actual fossils. They couldn't have those out there. Then you go underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, obviously a play on words for the Golden Gate Bridge, but this one features dinosaur bones. The dinosaur bone that can be found here is a brontosaurus, or it's brachiosaurus, one of those brontosauruses. And as you go underneath there, you can also see a bridge above you, and this is going to be for the boneyard. Now, the boneyard has a lot of really cool little details about it. But before we get into the boneyard, let's focus on the bulletin board that is going to be found directly in front of you. So as you enter into the land, there's a bulletin board there. Sometimes there's a drink stand there. There's not always a drink stand there. So if you want to go take a look at this stuff, and I highly recommend taking a look at this stuff, I recommend getting over there later in the day, because then the drink stand's not there and they allow you to go back that way. But the bulletin board there will be your first introduction into a lot of the different characters that are found in Dinoland USA. Now, we did talk a lot about Chester and Hester while we did our very lengthy recap of a story. But in addition to those characters, we also have characters like Dr. Bernard Dunn, Dr. Shirley Wu, Eugene Lee, Jenny Weinstein, Sam Gonzalez, Mark Rios. There's a lot of different characters that are actually found in this entire land, and they help pay tribute or play a part in the creation of everything that's going to be going around through the land, specifically over in the Boneyard and Restaurantosaurus, because without these characters, those two storylines just don't make a lot of sense. So when you're there, you can also find a map of the original Dinoland USA. You can also find different pictures of different people like Jenny Weinstein, Dr. Bernard Dunn. You can also find things like the advertisement for the brand new head of the Dino Institute, and it's dated as April 1998, with Dr. Helen Marsh being the brand new person, and how she's bringing in this chronotech, the brand new technology, to have it so people can go through and travel back in time. Across the way from there, we have the Boneyard. Now, the Boneyard, of course, is a play area. It seems like a very simple thing. However, it probably has some of the most amazing details found in the entire land. And if you are an adult and you want to go in there, you don't need to go in there with a kid. They might look at you like you're weird, but I do it at least once a week. So, and they look at me weird every time, but they don't. But there's a lot of different storyline that's going on here. There's a lot of really educational stuff going on here, but let's do a few little fun finds about this area as we go through here. First off, we talked about the mammoth earlier. There is a little dig area, and there is a mammoth there. And as you go through and look at the backboard of the entire area, you can find an entire description of why the mammoth is found there and not just some dinosaur bones. And that's because while we're going through and studying the extinct animals, it is not just dinosaurs that we're focusing on here in Dinoland USA, but while people were going through and digging up different dinosaur bones, they were also finding other extinct animals like a woolly mammoth. And a woolly mammoth, unlike the dinosaurs, they would have it so they would actually live the same time as humans. Also in this area, you can find hard hats. Some of them make a hidden Mickey. There's another one for Dr. Eugene McGee, and all that different stuff. But when you're in the main area, we have all the chutes, aka the slides that kids can go down. But you also have all these bulletin boards there, and the different bulletin boards focus specifically on the dinosaur that's closest to them, and it points out different details about each specific dinosaur. So when you're going through, there's some really funny details in there. One of my favorites is one of them has a page from a book with things about the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and it's like Mark Rios, and he's going through and saying, this is a very fascinating thing. As you can see in this book, it talks about how the Tyrannosaurus Rex is blah, 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 blah. And then there's a sticky note next to it, and it says, "Did you take this out of one of our books, Dr. Bernard Dunn?" So Dr. Bernard Dunn is a very strict person, and as you go through the entire land, you can find different notes that he has left to other people that focuses on him being strict and kind of going through and having it so he is, making sure people are doing things this way and not just, fun and fancy free. Disney movie. Uh, the last fun find that we're going to do, focusing on the boneyard before we go on to our next area, will be the sign itself. When you're actually looking at the sign for the boneyard, this is one of those things I keep on going back and forth for years. I'm like, do I tell people about this or do I wait till the book? You'll hear it here first, and then we're not going to talk about it ever again until the book comes out. And then people are going to be like, wait a minute, what? So when you're looking at the sign for the boneyard, it is a giant dinosaur bone with the words "the boneyard" written on it. And then there is a Z on the left hand side, there's a Z on the right hand side, and then next to the Z on the left hand side, there's an arrow pointing to the left. And then next to the Z on the right hand side, there is a arrow also pointing to the left. And a lot of people will go, this doesn't make any sense. It's kind of weird that there's arrows on here. It's kind of weird. What do the Z's mean? And the Z's actually are the letter N. So if you actually switch it and move it up, it's pointing N, or north. So if you actually look at the dinosaur bone, it is it's not an actual bone, but it's a Styracosaurus's shoulder blade. And what they realized is the shoulder blade of a Styracosaurus is close enough to the outline of what Disney's Animal Kingdom looked like, the outline of it, on opening day. So what they decided to do was create it so it was a Styracosaurus bone, but shaved off a little bit of thing to fit the mold of what Disney's Animal Kingdom looked like on opening day. And if you switch it, it actually is a map of Disney's Animal Kingdom on April 22nd, 1998. Really, really cool detail. Most people have zero clue that it exists, and it's there staring everyone in the face every single day. And it blows my mind that not many people, I never even knew too. I read about it in this book years ago. I love this book. It's an amazing book. It's called The Making of Disney's Animal Kingdom Theme Park. If you are one of my Patreon pals, then you know that we talked about this quite a bit the other day. It also has amazing pictures in here, like this guy who's about to get eaten by a dinosaur. So let's keep on going here. I'm going to take another drink here. Okay, so let's go take a look at Restaurantosaurus. Now, Restaurantosaurus, as you could tell earlier when we were going through the entire storyline, Restaurantosaurus has been the central point of the storyline for years. Literally, since Dino Land USA first opened up on April 22nd, 1998, the entire center storyline that goes on throughout this entire land focuses solely on this spot. It was the fishing lodge that we talked about. It then became the Dino Institute. If you go over there, you can still find things for the Dino Institute inside that building. And it is currently the home for the interns that work over at the Boneyard. And if you enter into the restaurant and you take a right, and then you take another right, there's going to be a room that's again to the right. It's literally like a big circle. But go to the right, then go to the right, and then go to the right. And in the back corner is probably one of the most overlooked dining areas in the entire restaurant, which is funny because it's like the most well lit. There's more stuff going on in this room than any other rooms, but it is literally called the hip joint. There is a picture of a dinosaur hip above you, and it is a place for all the interns to kind of hang out, relax, and enjoy themselves. Also, when you're looking at that bulletin board, there are things like the Zip Awards are written on there. The Zip Awards are found inside of this room. They are different awards that the paleontologist interns would get from their counterparts as the year went on, and at the end of the year, they would receive other awards as well. So when you're in there, you can find different awards. They'll say, so-and-so, they'll say like Brent, 1982, and it'll have whatever the Zip Award or the golden platter, or there's so many different awards in there. And it has all the different years, and they're kind of splattered around. In addition to that, we've got a badminton racket or badminton net in the middle of the room. We've got movie posters inside there. We've got a jukebox. We've got an airline streamer. Fun fact, the airline streamer was one of those things that the Imagineers wanted from the very start, and they just could not find how to get an airline streamer there because no one was willing to sell them an airline streamer for a cheap price. That's that little van. You can see it while you're walking towards Restaurantosaurus. It's like that silver bullet, and then on the back of it, it says IR Smart. And the actual one that they have there was not built by the Imagineers, but it was actually purchased by the Imagineers from one of the Imagineers' grandparents. So that was actually his grandma's airline streamer, and it's now living in Disney's Animal Kingdom until the land disappears, and then who knows what's going to happen to it. But it's always one of those things that I see, and I'm like, that's a really cool detail that is actually an Imagineer's grandma's, like that she owned that. Anyways, that's completely besides the point. In addition to the hip joint, if you go to the room right outside the hip joint, so again, if you're looking at the restaurant, you take a right, then you take a right. When you're in that second little dining room on the right, but before you get to the hip joint, if you take a look up in the rafters, you can actually find the bunkhouse for the interns. So you can find different beds up there. You can find different lofts. In addition to that, you can also find different costumes. And some of the costumes that you can find up there are the current costumes that cast members wear, and also the old costumes that cast members used to wear inside of Restaurantosaurus. So a really, really cool detail there. In addition to that, also inside of Restaurantosaurus, if you enter in and you take a left, you will actually be in the original Dino Institute, the one that was founded back in the 1940s, the late 1940s, maybe it was 1953, I can't remember. But while you're actually in that room, you can find the founding member on the wall. In addition to that, you can find things like an American flag with 48 stars on it, because this was founded before Alaska and Hawaii became states. So there's only 48 stars on the American flag at that point. And they just never changed it, because then eventually they would go over to the other Dino Institute. You can also find a tire swing put there by the interns. You can find some shoes hanging from the rafters. In addition to all these things, one of my favorite details of all is if you look up at the rafters that are on the far left-hand side of the room when you enter, you can find up there a little projector with a bunch of little projector, what are those called? Canisters next to it. And it is pointing across the room towards the soda fountain. And if you look above the soda fountain, you can actually find a projector there for the, a screen for the projector to be cast on. So overall, everywhere you look inside this restaurant, there's lots of really cool details. Another one that I absolutely love is inside the back area, where you actually have it so they're going through and digging up not digging up the dinos, but brushing off all the dinos, cleaning them up and stuff, is my picture on Instagram that completely bombed the other day, featuring Iguana Don Quixote. But it's funny. So I wrote to my friend before I posted it. I said, this picture is not going to do well. I was like, I love it, but it's not going to do well. And I was 100% right. It got like 12 likes when most of my stuff gets, well, a lot more than 12. Don Quixote. I think that's hilarious. So yeah, different details like that, where of course the interns are going through and, drawing different things and just adding different details. This will be the longest chapter in the book. There is thousands of details in there. I think it might be the second longest from what, I don't know. I'm right. There's a lot in this book. I think out of the closer look books here, let's pull up the other three. They are all about the same length. I'm thinking this is Frontierland. Frontierland one is the longest one so far. This one will be a bigger book than this. I don't know how big it will be. This one is how many pages? 132 pages plus other pages too in the back. I think it's definitely gonna be longer than that, but I have no idea how long. I really have no idea how long. But in my mind, the three longest chapters are going to be this one for sure. And then I'm thinking the Boneyard has a lot of detail in there that most people just don't realize. And then in addition to the Boneyard, we also have Chester and Hester's Dinosaur Treasures has so much detail in there. It's unbelievable. Dino was king, 31. Wait a minute. When did you upgrade to 31? You were just Dino was king last week. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago. Okay, let's continue. Let's go over to Dinosaur, or Countdown to Extinction, as we all know and love today. Or not. No, that's what we used to call it. Let's just do two really cool, fun finds here before we move on. The first one we will talk about is going to be the sponsorship. So we talked about a little bit about the sponsorship of McDonald's, where McDonald's originally sponsored the entire land, which is a rare thing. Usually a company doesn't sponsor an entire land, but for years, McDonald's did sponsor the entire land, and it paid tribute to McDonald's sponsorship when you were in that waiting area for the attraction. On the left-hand side, right before you board, there is a yellow pipe, a red pipe, and a white pipe. And on there, they have a bunch of different chemical compounds. And if you actually go through and figure out those chemical compounds, they're the chemical compounds for ketchup, mustard, and mayo, just as a nod to McDonald's. In addition to that, while you're also in that waiting area, across the way, you can find on the wall next to the seatbelt check for the people who are boarding on the right-hand side, a sign that says CTX WDI AK 498. Don't quote me on that. I'm almost positive though. Which stands for Countdown to Extinction, Walt Disney Imagineering, Disney's Animal Kingdom, 1998. So just a little nod to the idea of everything that happened before this. In addition to that, when you're going through the attraction, a lot of people go through and say, the attraction's the exact same track as Indiana Jones, and Indiana Jones is better. It is the same track. However, okay, let's talk a little bit about this. I don't get the whole... I've never understood the whole fight about which one's better, Dinosaur or Disney's or Indiana Jones. Yes, it's the same track, but they're two completely different rides, people. It's not like saying, is Rock and Roller Coaster over in Paris better than Rock and Roller Coaster at Disney's Hollywood Studios? Those are the same track too, but there was different things about them, but they were still the same theme. While this one theme is dinosaurs, the other one is Indiana Jones, and I like both attractions for what they are. But I also grew up more with Dinosaur than I did with Indiana Jones. I didn't go on the Indiana Jones one until I was like 23, 22, 23, somewhere around there. And so by that point, I was like, oh, like it's like Dinosaur, but I still enjoy Indiana Jones. But I also still, I don't know. People are weird. Okay, let's keep on going here and continuing our walk around. A walk around at Dinoland USA would not be complete without going to the Cretaceous Trail. Now, the Cretaceous Trail is one of the original trails found over at Disney's Animal Kingdom. This will also be things like the Pangani Forest Exploration Trail, now known as the Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail. You also have the Discovery Island trails, which are still there today as well. And then we, of course, would eventually get the Maharaja Jungle Trek. But the Cretaceous Trail over at Dinoland USA is one of the more unique ones, mainly due to the fact that it does not have any animals. While all the other ones that are found throughout the park do feature animals, this one does not feature any animals at all, but it actually features exotic plants, or not really exotic, but all the different plants that you can find on the Cretaceous Trail are actual plants that did exist back when dinosaurs also roamed the earth. So it's one of those things that all of the plants were done and were placed there that have still stood the test of time, that also stood the test of time in the dinosaur days, which I think is a really cool thing, because not only are we focusing on living, breathing animals, but we're also featuring on living things as well, including the plants that are here. But speaking of living animals, we do have 3 animals that call this place home. 2 of them are going to be right behind you at the Cretaceous Trail. One of them is going to be found, or 2 of them are going to be found together, and that is going to be the stork along with the turtle. The turtles crack me up over here. They're not the tortoises that I always post on Instagram, but instead these are going to be turtles. They have like this very small little slow moving stream that goes through the middle of the thing, and there's like a waterfall that's like yay big, and they always try to climb up it, and then the water pops them down, and they're struggling, and they get back up, and they keep on trying to climb up the waterfall when there's literally a little path that they could just walk around and get to the top on. But it's really entertaining. I can not almost guarantee, there's like a 50% chance that if you go watch these guys and you watch them for like 10 minutes, you will see at least one of them attempt to go up over this waterfall, and it cracks me up every time. I've seen it so many times now, but every time I see it, it just cracks me up. On the other side, we do have our oldest living resident here, which is going to be the crocodile, and he is he's getting up there in age. He is very stand in the same spot most of the time. A lot of people I have talked to do believe that he is fake. I have seen him move multiple times, but I have also seen him just sit in one spot for the majority of the time. But he is a very alive crocodile, so do not go in there. And he is an American crocodile, which is a rare species. So unlike the Nile crocodile or the other types of crocodile that can be found over in Africa or Asia, this is actually one that is native to the Americas. So in addition to that, if we go around the corner from there and we head up towards Dino-Rama, the first thing that you might notice is Dino-Rama is spelled out in the greenery in different plates. And if you take a look, you'll actually find these different license plates that are focused there. This is mainly due to the fact that Chester and Hester run this area, and everything that we're going to be talking about for the rest of the walkthrough here is going to focus on the Chester and Hester area. By the way, we are running low on time. So one, try to get us some new subscribers. Two, if you have questions, start throwing them in the things now. We're going to go through, I'm going to touch on a few more things here, and then we'll go to your questions, and then we'll probably wrap it up. But unless we get more subscribers. Right now, we are still sitting at that 7,733 subscribers that we started at the start of the episode. Oh, wait. So we need another drink here. So Chester and Hester. Chester and Hester are in charge of pretty much all the cars that are coming to the area, because most of them are going through the gas station at some point of their trip, or they're parking at one of their parking lots at some point during their trip as well. So what you will notice, a lot of the decorations that Chester and Hester use is actually a different license plate from people. So either they are taking license plates off of people's cars or people are leaving their license plates behind, which I've never let my license plate behind someplace. Maybe I'm one of the few, but most likely Chester and Hester are stealing people's license plates to use to decorate the entire area. So the plant that you can find there is held in place by different license plates from all around the country, including Wisconsin, Florida. That's it. Those just no. There's a New York one there. There's Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina. A lot of stuff that's kind of on the more eastern side of the country, but you can also find a few things. Like there is a California one there as well. In addition to that, as we go further into the land, you will find a meet and greet for Donald Duck on the right-hand side. The Donald Duck meet and greet, again, is run by Chester and Hester. If you take a look over here, up above, you can find different things like license plates. You can also find things that would be used to fix cars, because this area was originally used as the spot where they would fix and use, or a mechanic would come in and fix different cars up. So while you're meeting Donald, look up and you'll find some different cool details there. In addition to that, you can also find a gas pump right outside of the meet and greet area as well, with some very low prices, because this area has been in use as a character meet and greet spot for years instead of a gas spot that, it was. Right after that, we also have Chester and Hester's Dinosaur Treasures. This is the other spot where I said this could be the longest chapter in the book. But while we go through there and take a look at this section, we're not going to go into too much detail right now, but we will point out, should we do two details? Let's do two details. One, there are a few hidden characters that can be found inside of the shop, including Fred from Big Hero 6 in his superhero outfit. If you look up at one of the shelves, you can find a bunch of little toy dinosaurs, and then in all of those toy dinosaurs, you can also find Fred in his superhero outfit from Big Hero 6. In addition to that, there is a train that goes around the entire thing. We actually did a video about that a few weeks ago here on my YouTube channel. If you take a look up at the train, inside one of the train cars, if you are looking on the right-hand side of the train, you can find Woody hanging out from Toy Story, looking out at the crowd. In addition to that, my favorite detail, probably in all of Dinoland USA, can be found outside the shop right above the entrance that is facing towards Chester and Hester's Dino-Rama. So when you get to Chester and Hester's Dino-Rama and you're walking there, right before you enter into the store, you can find 4 little plaques on the thing. One of them, it says, soapy skin making you groan, don't despair, use fossil foam. So that's one way, and that's the one that's coming from with Dinoland's entrance to your back. And then if you have the bathrooms to your back and you look the other way, you can see that the sign says, when in Florida, be sure to visit Epcot. So a really cool little detail, a really cool little like advertisement to Epcot while you were there in the area. If you go down that road, you can also find 2 advertisements, one for Chester and Hester's Dinorama, the other one for the Dino Institute, that has also been taken over by Chester and Hester doing their own advertising. Chester and Hester are all about that money. Let's talk a little bit about Chester and Hester's Dinorama. First off, we did point out the Triceratops spin. It looks like a giant top. There's so many people that I've pointed this out to in the past. And I'm like, oh, it does. That's Triceratops spin. It's a, little top spinner. But behind you is the location where Primeval Whirl once sat. So Primeval Whirl, I believe someone asked the question earlier about why is it not there, but it's still over at California Adventure. Well, the one at California Adventure is Goofy's Flight School. Before that, it was Mulholland Madness. And it is a different track than what is here. But the main reason they got rid of it here at Disney's Animal Kingdom is mainly due to the fact of maintenance. It was actually a lot of money to run this dual roller coaster. There was a while there that they were only operating one side, and when they started operating only one side, the line started to get really long, and then more people are complaining because they're like, it's not that good of a roller coaster, and now I'm waiting for 40 minutes for this roller coaster, and blah, 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 blah. And so then they decided to open up both sides again, but then it kept on having mechanical problems. And finally, they said at one point that what they're going to do is they're just going to take down part of it and start to redo things. And then they just realized that maybe, just maybe, it would cost, more money to, just take it down and not worry about it anymore. So unfortunately, it was taken down and never heard from again. And it broke my heart because I actually really enjoyed Primeval Whirl. It was when if you remember, back in April, I left here for a week to go up to Wisconsin for a wedding. And the person whose wedding I went to, it was a kid I used to babysit for, and him and his family and my family all came down here in 2010. And that was that kid's favorite ride. And we rode it like 5 times together. He was like absolutely in love with it. And so when it closed, I was very sad because I had those memories with him as well. I was like, oh, why did they get rid of it? And I kept on thinking maybe it'll come back someday, and then it never will. Unfortunately, it never will. In addition to that, let's talk a little bit about the games, mainly due to the fact that I love how the games have different, fun, unique names. Like there's Bronto Score, which is the basketball one. There's Mammoth Marathon, which is going to be the one that has it so you roll the ball up and then the little marathon or the mammoth guys go. Overall, a lot of really cool little details found inside of that area. And then after you go underneath the dinosaur, you are exiting out of Dino Land USA. And that's going to bring us to our final little detail before we go to your questions. And that final detail is the Big Blue World, Finding Nemo. Why on earth is Finding Nemo here? And how come it's part of Dino Land USA? There is a long-running thing that I've had to tell people for 15 years now. We've been doing this for 15 years. By the way, if you didn't join us earlier, next week is our 15-year anniversary of the Wednesday show. So make sure you join us next Wednesday. I don't know if we're going to be live from the park or I'm trying to think of something really cool to do. But just make sure you join us next Wednesday. I promise you we're going to do something fun. But I talked about this for 15 years now about the Finding Nemo show. And at one point it was Tarzan Rocks, and it was the Jungle Book show before that. A lot of people will talk about how it's part of Dino Land USA, and they're like, it doesn't make sense that it's part of Dino Land USA. And that's because it's not part of Dino Land USA. What? That's right. So this is actually going to be the only thing in the parks that does not belong to a specific land. So the theater that Finding Nemo, the Big Blue World and Beyond is called, or the theater is called, is the Theater in the Wild, because it does not belong to a specific land, but it is a theater that is literally out in the wild and does not belong to a specific location. So that, my friends, is a take a hike through Dino Land USA. All right, let's go through. We're going to answer some questions here. We've already given you guys a little bit of overtime, but if you guys give us, if we get another subscriber while we're going through and answering questions, we will go into even more overtime. So we are starting here at 7,733. Let's go to the questions. Why is the roller coaster still at Disneyland? Oh, we had that one. How did the characters Chester and Hester come to be? Are they based on Imagineers? They are not based on Imagineers. It's much like a lot of the other stories that if you go back and take a look at old things like Pirates of the Caribbean, it's mainly just the idea of what else can we have here that can be unique. And when the Imagineers were coming up with the idea of a Dino Land area, the Imagineers said, okay, let's focus on the two things that we really know about dinosaurs and the two things that Americans specifically focus on when they talk about dinosaurs. One of them is the really cool part, like the scientific, the actual names, the actual fossils, going through and talking about the actual dinosaurs, who ate who, what their eating patterns were, all the really cool scientific things that as a little kid you geek out about. But then there's that other really cool idea of dinosaurs in America specifically, where it is not a solid, this is scientific, this is cool, blah, 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 but it's that zany side where people are like, oh, you're going down an old expressway, and while you're going down, you might see the world's biggest ball of twine, or you might see the world's biggest rocking chair, or you might see a massive dinosaur. We had a dinosaur. I've seen those massive dinosaurs, probably like 3 or 4 of them. There was one that was over in the Wisconsin Dells, I believe. There was also that pink elephant with the sunglasses in Wisconsin Dells. But there's a lot of different locations in America where they would have these massive zany things, like the massive green dinosaur that you can find at the one side of Chester and Hester's Dinorama. And that's what they were kind of figuring out. They're like, okay, if we have a more wild side, a more zany side of dinosaurs. Did I put the sign up? I don't know if I ever put the sign up. But they said if we have this massive thing with dinosaurs, then we can kind of try to figure out a storyline with that, along with the storyline with the other one, and how these two can intermingle and live together. And when they came up with those two things, they came up with the story of Chester and Hester as just two fictional people who owned a gas station in the town. And they figured that's like a roadside attraction that you would find in America all around the world. And then they also had this idea of Dr. Helen Marsh, Dr. Grant Seeker, all these different paleontologists, and them actually using the actual information, the actual study of dinosaurs, paleontology, and having it so those two stories live together. And how can we get those two stories to live together? And the way that they did this was creating Chester and Hester, and also creating Dr. Helen Marsh, Dr. Bernard Dunn, Dr. Grant Seeker, Dr. Shirley Wu, all these different characters, and having it so they kind of merge together and come together. So yeah, they're not actually based on actual real people, but more of that kind of stuff. Dinosaur You Mean Countdown to Extinction. So this is the one thing. Okay, we're going to do a fun story. When I was writing from Screen and Theme, Disney MGM Studios was no longer called Disney MGM Studios. It was called Disney's Hollywood Studios. And so when they were going through and I was writing the book, there was a few times where I was like writing down Disney MGM Studios. So I was like, wait, no, it's called Disney's. So when you go through, like, there's a few different things that you have to do when you write books about Disney. You have to like submit it to Disney to like make sure it's not breaking any of their guidelines of like, being unfaithful to the thing, blah, 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 blah. But one of the big things is you cannot call anything in print form not by its actual name. So calling something Disney MGM Studios that's now called Disney's Hollywood Studios, big no-no. Same thing for things like Dinosaur. Calling it Countdown to Extinction, big no-no. You can talk about the history of it. You can say it once was Countdown to Extinction, but by referring to it as... So because of that, going all the way back 15 years ago when I wrote from Screen to Theme, I've gotten into the pattern of when things change and the name changes for different things, I have to correct myself right away because otherwise it's a big no-no. And I don't want to, be the person who breaks the rules at Disney because I don't want to risk anything. Same thing for like Downtown Disney. Now it's Disney Springs, and that one took a while for me to do, but it's Disney Springs. I don't even refer to it as Downtown Disney anymore. Okay, how much of that was that's? I would like to get Joe Rohde's thoughts on the changes coming up with Dinoland. I would too. I would actually like to talk to a lot of the old Imagineers. I think I'm sure the new things are going to be extremely well done, but at the same time, I love Dinoland USA. I absolutely love Dinoland USA. Can you talk about my question? Yeah, we had that one. I did answer that one. Are you ready to run a? Are you ready to run around a cruise with me? Of course, I am extremely ready. I cannot wait. Does the large dinosaur you walk under have, when exiting, have a name? He does not, but the dinosaur that you can find here, I actually have a picture of him that I took the other day. This one right here is named Daryl. His name is Daryl, and he is the cousin of Donald Duck. And we even talk about that stuff. So about 7 or 8 years ago, we went through and in actual real life, we discovered that birds are closely related to dinosaurs. And when that happened, they decided to change the theming of the entire area to Donald's Dino Bash. And when they switched it to Donald's Dino Bash, they wanted to go through and that's when we got Donald Duck as a meet and greet. We had Scrooge for a while, Launchpad McQuack for a while. And then, unfortunately, the entire world shut down. And when that happened, we lost those other 2 meet and greets, and it broke my heart. We need a crazy challenge next Wednesday. Kind of like that idea. There is a crazy challenge that I want to do. I just have to figure out when I can do it. I also have some friends who got into town yesterday, and I don't know. I don't know when I'm gonna be able to do some stuff. It's my friend Catherine who's done a few of the races with me. Her and I've been friends for 20 years, and her husband and their 3 kids. So today was like a very slow day at the park. We were there for like 4 hours, but we only got the safari. What else? Festival Lion King, Triceratops Spin, and the Boneyard were the 4 things that we did today. So we'll see. I'm not sure how long they're here. Any idea when your book will come out? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. I know that I am working a lot more on it than I have been in the last year. I was trying to do a little bit every single night for a long time, and there were some times where it was like I would do it, I'd be exhausted, and just kind of. And then last Thursday, I was hopping on the plane from Wisconsin back down here, and I had this really strong gut feeling that they were going to announce that Dinoland's going to close sometime this month because we have the D23 Expo is going to be coming up week. And when that's coming up, they're going to make lots of announcements. And I'm positive one of the announcements is going to be about Dinoland closing and about the America's Pavilion coming to the location. And I think when they are going to make that announcement, I think they're going to give us the day of when Dinoland closes. And part of me feels like it's going to be close. But at the same time, they did announce a brand new annual pass holder magnet yesterday, and that's going to be picked up at Chester and Hester's Dinosaur Treasures, and it says pickup is until September 22nd. So hopefully it's still around September 22nd, but at the same time, there's been times in the past when Disney has announced these things at the expo, the actual areas don't know that it's closing down, so they might make the announcement of, hey, we're going to give these magnets out at Chester and Hester's Dinosaur Treasures, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're like, oh, by the way, we're closing Dinoland USA tomorrow. And then all of a sudden, Disney, the other part of Disney is like, oh, wait, we can't give out the magnets here anymore. We have to switch the location. So I'm hoping that the people who are in charge of the magnets are in cahoots with Imaginary, but I highly doubt that they are. And that maybe we have Chester and Hester Dinoland USA for at least another month and a half. But yeah, when I was on that plane, I was like, I've got to start writing. And I got home that night and I literally sat down at this desk and I wrote for like an hour. And then the next day I went to Dinoland USA for 3 hours before I went to work. And I filmed a bunch of stuff. I figured it out the other day. I think I've got 27 hours now worth of footage around Dinoland USA. A lot of it's just repeat footage of like, the same stuff. But yeah, I don't know when it's going to come out. Long story short, I don't know when it's going to come out, but I do know that I am working on it frantically right now. So bear with me. I would love to have it out by Christmas or earlier, but I have no idea. Just bear with me and we will keep you guys up to date. If you are also one of the Patreon pals, I am trying to do more and more postings of the articles there. We also did a live feed there the other night where I went through and read an entire massive section of the book to those people. So we'll see. It's going to be a long book. And I think that's the biggest thing is if you go through the books here. So if you go from the Fantasyland book to the Liberty Square book, Fantasyland is like double the size of Liberty Square. The books are about the same size because I go into so much more detail in the Liberty Square book. And then when we go from Liberty Square to Frontierland, I go into even more detail. And so because of that, working on this one, I'm going to even more detail. So it's like I keep on. For the Fantasyland one, I was like, I don't know what people are going to want. If they're going to want me to go into like a lot of detail or just a little detail. And it was a test run book, and it tested positively. And so for the Liberty Square book, we went into a little bit more detail. And when we went into a little bit more detail, people seemed happy. So Frontierland, we went into more detail. And Dinoland USA might be the one where people are like, this is too much. Just go a little bit slower there, buddy. So we will see. But I'm trying to get every detail down, literally every detail down. But at the same time, I know I'm more on a time crunch than I've ever been for any other book because I know this land is closing. And because this land is closing, as nice as it is to have every little detail, it's also like, yes, I can get all the details, but I also only have a limited amount of time to do the research and to double check things. And that's the crazy part is when you're going through and you're double checking things and saying, okay, is this here? Is this here? Is this actually a thing? Do I need to rewrite this area? And for Frontierland, Fantasyland, and Liberty Square, it was really easy because I was like, oh, I've got all the time in the world. I can go back and I can recheck things before the book comes out. But for this book, there's going to come a point possibly, if I don't get the book out soon enough, that I won't be able to recheck things. That was a very long answer for any idea when the book will come out. But yeah, tonight I will probably be working on it for another hour or two or 3 or 4 before I go to bed. So I also have to finish that video that I was working on earlier too. That's Disney and the Olympics, because that's going to be a good video that will come out tomorrow. So make sure you check that out. It's going to be a lot of work to do that as well. So I'm putting a lot on my plate, and maybe I shouldn't be putting this much stuff on the plate, but that's what I just seem to do sometimes. Okay, but it looks like that might be all of our questions. We gave you guys a lot more time than we usually do. So as always, tonight's episode is sponsored by our Patreon pals. That was the worst one yet. In honor of Dinoland USA, Patreon pals. That's the dinosaur growling. Thank you everyone for joining us once again this week. I hope you guys enjoyed our take a hike through Dinoland USA. I don't think you were all expecting me to go on for about 30 minutes just on the storyline, the backstory of Dinoland USA. But here we are. An hour and 15 minutes to 20 minutes later. we have finally concluded. But as always, thank you everyone out there for joining us once again this week. Please keep on spreading the word about the Wednesday show and From Screen to Theme. If you're not already subscribed over on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. It would be great if we got this number up to 8,000 in honor of our 15-year anniversary next Wednesday. I'm just saying. So if you want to send over 267 of your friends so we can hit 8,000 by next Wednesday. But thank you everyone for out there for joining us. I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, remember that anything can happen if you let it. Till next time, bye-bye. Goodbye now. Goodbye. Bye-bye now. Goodbye now. Bye-bye. Are they gone? Are they gone? Oh, good. My cheeks are just killing me. I just can't stand this kind of pressure.